let's talk about sex. Do I have your attention? This is Sean from One With Nature. We're going to talk about libido herbs of Jamaica and the Caribbean. Pro-sexual herbs, to be precise. What is a pro-sexual herb? A pro-sexual herb will create changes in the performance of the sex organs themselves depending on the sex of the person who's taking the herb. You're going to have an increase in blood flow to the sex organs. They may increase the production of dopamine. They may help create desire in you to want to be with someone else. Or a pro-sexual herb will act directly upon the endocrine system. Basically, if you're a woman, there are herbs that can make you wetter with increased blood flow to the genitals. If you're a guy, you'll have harder erections and an increase in desire to go along with your newfound hardness and endurance. This is going to be geared mainly to men, since over the years I've probably had, maybe 3 or 4 women contact me about herbs for enhancing their libido. Well over 99% of the inquiries I've had come from men. And like it or not, as a man, the burden of performance is upon you. You are expected to perform not just in the bedroom, but all areas of life. And when it comes to libido, well, sometimes you're on your own. Low libido isn't exactly celebrated. There's no shortage of popular songs about love and sex, but how many top 10 hits can you name about a guy who can't get it up? There are voluminous advertisements and promises being made in connection with special herbs or secret herbal formulas. If you're desperately looking for some type of herbal libido product, you're eventually going to end up in some dark, moist corner of the internet, bombarded by ads promising that you'll be an unstoppable sex machine. But what is the reality? It's pretty common for one person to gush about the performance they obtain from using an herb or a combination of herbs, and then somebody else goes out, they buy the exact same product, they take it faithfully, and then the big moment comes. The theme to Rocky is playing in your head, you're going to be a god in the bedroom, and you're as soft as a snack cake. Nothing happens. And it's frustrating, right? Sex is a universal language. There are billions of people running around the earth, so somebody's having sex. It's just not you. And you can't play pool with a piece of string. Low libido can be hard to pin down in some people because you never know what someone has gone through in their life or is going through at the moment, and the answer is not always found inside of a pill. We know a few things for sure. You need blood flow. You need testosterone, nitric oxide, and dopamine. So it may be low testosterone. Do you notice that your eyes have been giving you trouble recently, perhaps trouble with focusing? Testosterone controls muscle growth, including the tiny muscles in the eye. Changes in vision could be due to low testosterone. So this could be a real, obvious early warning sign that we should be addressing our testosterone levels. Maybe not enough nitric oxide is being created. That's the blood gas that's critical for getting and maintaining an erection. Perhaps in the brain, levels of dopamine, which helps with desire, are too low. Get a blood test, and what you want to see is your free testosterone at 75 or higher. You want your estradiol and estrone in low single digits, and progesterone in the high 2-digit or into the 3-digit range. If you don't have these numbers, then you are estrogen dominant and have low testosterone. Testosterone and dopamine are the happy hormones, so guard these carefully. The prostate gland should contain the highest levels of zinc in the body, but if you drink from copper water pipes and take iron supplements, zinc will get kicked out of the body tissues and displaced by the copper and iron. Zinc is a crucial building block for all epithelial tissues, with special emphasis on the sex organs. What do you think happens to the prostate when you are depleted of zinc? It stops functioning correctly. You need zinc to make dopamine. You need dopamine to get an erection. So now we're back to zinc again. The legendary longevity herb Shou Wu is very high in zinc. These are some processed Shou Wu roots that I got while I was in China. Shou Wu is very popular in China. It's easily obtainable. Shou Wu has long been associated with sexual health and energy, longevity, so it's no coincidence that it's high in zinc. Zinc and magnesium are essential minerals or cofactors in making testosterone. But if you look at the labels on your food, so many products are calcium fortified. But what about magnesium fortified? Too much calcium displaces the magnesium, so then your testosterone levels start tanking. Clinical studies show that taking 1,000 milligrams of magnesium daily has been shown to increase levels of testosterone significantly. So those are just a few physical reasons why a man may have low libido. But maybe it's psychological, okay? Maybe the person who runs away from intimacy was really emotionally burned in their last relationship, and they're still in a grieving process, and they just can't get over what they went through. Grief and stress cause chronic inflammation, which in turn leads to a depletion of your mineral stores, like zinc. So now we're back to zinc again. And lack of zinc leads to more inflammation. But this time, the lack of zinc was originally triggered by an emotional response. So this person is just not over it yet. When they get close to being intimate with someone else, they suddenly discover not only is their heart not into it, but other organs have raised the white flag of surrender as well. This emotional firewall serves as a protection while the person regains their confidence and heals from the emotional trauma they have experienced. Or maybe they've defaulted to this zero intimacy status for so long, it's basically a learned behavior, all right? So we have someone whose emotional makeup is such they simply cannot get over past events without some help. In these cases, herbs could help. Holy basil, also known as tulsi, can help emotionally heal a person whose life is anchored to an emotionally traumatic event years in the past. I'm not talking just a year or two. I mean 20 years ago, somebody may have gone through something emotionally upsetting and they just cannot let it go. Drinking a cup of tulsi tea 3 times a day could very well begin erasing this past event and bring the person in question towards a new way of looking at life, love, and relationships. Another herbal help could be a combination of rose petals and kava root. This unique combination, which acts simultaneously upon the nervous system and the heart itself, has the ability to get a person over the grieving process faster and help the afflicted person move on with their life, instead of being in a permanent state of living in the past. Another reason why a person may have low libido is due to underlying trauma to the brain. Trauma which has never been diagnosed, discovered, or even suspected, and the effects of which are explained away as depression or PTSD. Good candidates for this are people who have suffered concussions or other repeated brain trauma. I'm talking about people in the military, people who have been in the martial arts and have taken many shots to the head, people who have been in auto accidents, or if you're really lucky, you're a martial artist who is in the military and you've been in 1 or more serious auto accidents. Even those who have been around repeated concussive force with no physical contact, such as people in the military who stand near large weapons going off, all right, or explosions, and the shock wave goes through the air, and then it goes through your head, and it creates damage in the brain, which results in depression, suicidal thoughts, and yes, low libido from hormone deficiencies. For more information on recovering from this specific type of head trauma, Google Dr. Mark L. Gordon at Millennium Health Centers. The brain is the largest sex organ. What if you could not only increase your libido, but you could actually increase blood flow to both hemispheres of the brain, increase muscle mass, improve the quality of the blood pumping through your veins, increase your hand-eye coordination, enjoy a better mood all day long, sleep better at night, and much more using 3 simple exercises that anyone can do in the comfort of their own home. Michael Lavery's book, Whole Brain Power, explains the science behind his deceptively simple exercises, which will enable you to achieve all of the above. This could be a great non-herb solution to your libido issue, which will also improve your quality of life greatly. I am personally acquainted with the methods outlined by Michael Lavery in his book, Whole Brain Power, and I can attest to their effectiveness. I'll probably end up making a video somewhere down the line explaining the principles in the book Whole Brain Power, but you can enjoy the benefits now. The hands grow the brain. What does that mean? Visit wholebrainpower.com to find out. Okay, so the reason I'm mentioning all of these things is to stress how lack of libido can be a multi-faceted issue. There are many reasons why a person may not be operating to their full potential when it comes to their sex life. So while you could pop a pill and force the body to act in a certain way, first look into the underlying reasons for your low libido. You don't want to chase or hide symptoms. You want to find root causes and then correct them. Remember, you always treat the person and not necessarily the symptoms. Okay, so let me tell you something that happened to me while I was in Jamaica that ties in directly with what we're talking about here. These are almond trees that grow at the side of the road in Jamaica. It's not unusual to see these, but I was sitting up front talking to the taxi driver in his minivan, just hounding this guy with questions about herbs, and he was more than happy to tell me about how herbs were used by his grandmother, his mom, and his family when he was growing up. Remember, in my first video about Jamaica, and something you'll come to find out in videos where I visit Mexico, the Dominican Republic, and other places, the locals are all on board with the whole herb thing. They are very fluent in its use. They grew up with it. They know herbs like the back of their hand, okay? So the taxi driver, we're driving along, and he suddenly just points up and he says, "Those are almond trees." And I yell, "Stop! Stop the van!" So he puts on the brakes. We pull off the side of the road. I slide open the door. I jump out, and I start taking pictures of these almond trees. And I hear this commotion behind me, and I turn around just in time to see one of the passengers is throwing his hands up in the air. He's in disbelief that the reason I needed to stop so suddenly was to take pictures of some trees, and the guy says, "What the hell is he doing?" Guy was upset. The taxi driver, he tries to come to my rescue. He looked, he turns around, he puts his arm over the back of the seat, he looks right at the passenger, and he says, "He is his own man. He must do what he must do." And I'm watching all this, right? And so then the taxi driver stops the engine and jumps out of the taxi. And the guy that was yelling climbs out of the minivan, and now we're all looking at these almond trees. And so I'm taking pictures, and the taxi driver points across the road, and he says, "That's a sea grape tree." And I look over, and here's this tree across the road with these grapes just growing right off the branches and twigs. Kind of reminded me of a cacao tree in a weird way. So I go running across this road, and I'm running. There's traffic coming, and I hear footsteps, right? So I look behind me, and here comes the taxi driver, and behind him is the guy that was so upset that we were stopping to take pictures in the first place. They're both running across this road behind me, and I start taking pictures of this sea grape tree. And I look over, and the guy who was so upset, the guy that was yelling, he starts picking these grapes off of the tree. and the dust from the road is sticking to these grapes, but he doesn't care. He's eating them, and he's suddenly so excited that he's eating these dusty grapes off of this tree that he never even knew existed 2 minutes before. And so he even pulled off a few grapes off of the tree, and he put them in his hand so that I could take a picture of them. And that, my friends, is the power of passion. One moment this guy was upset, his hands were being thrown up in the air, he was mad. A few moments later, he's totally into the whole herb thing. He's pulling these grapes off of this tree, putting them in his hand so I can take pictures of them. Why? Because he became swept up in the passion that I had for seeing something that I'd never seen before. People are attracted to other people who have passion in their lives, who are passionate about something. So many people have no passion in their lives. They exist from day to day, and the only passion they ever get is from watching fictional exploits of people in TV shows and movies who don't even exist. Find something and be passionate about it. And that true, infectious passion will affect every aspect of your life, including your love life. All right, so on to the libido herbs. Match the person to the right herb, and you're going to see a vast difference in your sex life. Anatomy jokes. I love them. Pro-sexual herbs are herbs that either increase blood flow or dopamine, herbs that support the adrenals and nervous system, or otherwise fill in the gaps. First off, the thing about these libido herbs is that they always help support more than just the obvious. You're using them for one reason, but you're going to see benefits elsewhere. You seek out these herbs so that they will help you in that area of your house called the land that time forgot, otherwise known as your bedroom. But more often than not, herbs or herbal extracts used to increase a person's performance or desire in the bedroom will also affect the nervous system, the adrenals. They'll lighten your mood, sharpen your mental focus, or give you additional physical strength. Let's take a look here at some different renowned libido herbs found in Jamaica and the Caribbean. First up, it's Damiana. This is found in Jamaica. It's a well-known libido herb, especially for women, but it also has specific mood-enhancing abilities, as we will see shortly. This is a very useful herb. What is Damiana typically known for? Well, here is a hint. This is a Damiana liqueur that is sold south of the border. I think you can get it online in the U.S. And as you can see, the bottle looks like a pregnant lady. They say it's a depiction of an Incan goddess, but I suppose it can be both. In Jamaica, it's called Ram Goat Dash. It's native to southwestern Texas as well. You'll find it in Central America, Mexico, South America, and women really like this herb. It works more often than not, especially if you can really understand the person you're trying to help and match the energetics of the herb to that person. Damiana also has another important use that has nothing to do with libido. It is a stimulating nervine, and for those who are depressed because they have a lack of sex drive, or maybe they've simply lost interest in everything, all right? These people will usually be middle-aged or older, and they just don't have any interest in life. They're just kind of getting by day. They've lost their zeal for life. They're just kind of blah about living. People talk about the fountain of youth. For some people, Damiana could very well be maybe not the fountain of youth, maybe the drinking fountain of youth. It will serve as a rejuvenator and get them up and involved and passionate about life again until they snap out of their blasé attitude. If you have a person who is tired because of long-term unending pain, Damiana will revitalize the nervous system. Although the king of herbs for adrenal exhaustion is fresh milky oats. But fresh milky oats takes 2, maybe 3 months to kick in fully. But long term, fresh milky oats is probably the best you can get herbally. But you can use Damiana in the meantime. So Damiana will actually create erotic dreams in some people who use it. If you're a woman, don't be surprised if your orgasms become stronger, or if the ability to have an orgasm returns after a long absence. In men, Damiana could also be responsible for erotic dreams and fuller, harder erections. Now, this is Chuchuhuasi bark, sometimes pronounced as Chuchuwasi, straight from the rainforest. These chunks you see here are hard as a rock. You can drive a truck right over them. Won't do anything to them. It takes a lot of time and effort to release the properties that make Chuchuhuasi such a great herb. It's not to be found in Jamaica. It's not to be found in the Caribbean. But it was such a great libido herb, such an all-over tonic herb that I had to include it. Chuchuhuasi is not only good for libido boosting, but it's a great mood elevator and really good for a segment of people who have lower back or joint pains. It's a great adrenal support herb. This is likely the second most popular herb in all of South America, next to cat's claw. Chuchuhuasi is probably the closest you're going to get to a true adaptogen herb from the rainforest. That and Suma are probably the 2 top contenders to be listed as adaptogens someday, maybe. I love Chuchuhuasi. You mix this with some American ginseng extract and you're going to be feeling great all day long. Just a wonderful herb. It is full of alkaloids. You put some on your tongue's going to shrivel up. The alkaloids are going to work. It feels like grit on your taste buds. You could never do a presentation like this if you took Chuchuhuasi beforehand. You'd be tripping all over your words. It ties your tongue up in knots. Those are the alkaloids that are so rich in the Chuchuhuasi bark. So locate some Chuchuhuasi, try it out. It's just a great all-over herb. Bo-bandy, or Bo-bandy if you live in Jamaica. These are Bo-bandy roots and branches that I got from Jamaica. In the Caribbean, the bark or the roots are mainly soaked in a bottle of rum for a period of time and then consumed. It's really popular. You can go online and see all kinds of Bo-bandy drinks available in the island. Here's a drink from the islands called hard wine that has Bo-bandy, Siberian ginseng, and epimedium, otherwise known as horny goatweed. Horny goatweed is one of the premier, if not the premier, lung qi herbs in the world. Okay, so again, we have a libido herb that has important actions and powers for other areas of the body. But anyways, I have to believe that the Bo-bandy in this particular drink is doing all of the heavy lifting, because 70% of the Siberian ginseng being sold in the world isn't really Siberian ginseng. And Bo-bandy works faster than horny goatweed does. Bo-bandy is not only a really fast-acting libido herb, but it's also useful for increasing the blood flow all over the body. It's a mood elevator like a lot of libido herbs are. Some have said that it helps with blood purification and pancreas support, but I've only read that from one source, so I like to have more than one source before I officially recommend any herb for any type of issue. So Bo-bandy, well, I used to have Bo-bandy on my website, and I can tell you for a fact, this stuff works. I'm not going to repeat all the emails and testimonials that came in after I started offering this on my site. I'll repeat one. A customer said that, quote, "The Bo-bandy sparked an ancient and long-forgotten stirring deep within my loins," unquote. You people got too much time on your hands. I guess he liked the Bo-bandy, but the thing with Bo-bandy is it either works like crazy for some people or not at all for everybody else. So when it works great. I'm talking guys going for 4 hours straight, and then other people try it, nothing. Also, You got to use a 1/4 ounce to a 1/2 ounce of the Bo-bandy extract in order to see results. So if you buy it in a 4 or an 8 ounce bottle, you're going to use it up really quickly. And that doesn't really help if you're on a budget, right? So if you're going to try Bo-bandy, make sure it's combined with other herbs like Irish moss, what else? Epimedium, maybe if you can find somebody that'll combine it with Cachuba or Chuchuhuasi, then you might have something. So we'll get to Irish moss here. Ideally, you will want to match up the person to the herb. Okay? Remember what I said in the last Jamaica video. Ideally, you want to treat the person and not their symptoms. Not that their symptoms are inconsequential by any means. You just want to look at the whole person and get to the core of why they are dealing with whatever is going on inside them or to them. Herbs are like people. They all have different energetics and different personalities. Some people we get along with, some people we don't. So understand yourself and you will understand what herb is best matched to you as an individual. So let's go back to the health food store that I visited in the first Jamaica video. So when I was there, I went to the back of the store. There's a little kitchen back there. And I asked for a glass of tea. And if you're not specific about what kind of tea you want, you don't know what kind of tea you're going to end up getting. Not necessarily this place, this particular health food store, but in general. Because they have mint tea, they have fish tea, they have ganja tea. So you got to be specific. So I asked for a glass of mint tea. So I'm waiting for it, and I look around, and I look down, and there's a menu of drinks that you can order. And one menu in particular is comprised of nothing but libido-enhancing potions. Jamaican men take their libido very seriously, and every single one of these drinks had the same ingredient in it. So I understand what these drinks are for. I'm looking at the ingredients. So I ask the woman working there with a straight face, I just look at her and I say, what does this drink do? And she looks at me and she pauses and she says, it's to give you a strong back. So I said, oh, all right. So if I lift something heavy and I hurt my back, will this drink help me? And she looks at me and she says, that's not the kind of strong back I'm talking about. And the phrase strong back in Jamaica means sexual potency or sexual power, ability, etc. And Irish moss is huge in Jamaica. You can see it sold by vendors at the side of the road. You can see it in outdoor markets. It's a main ingredient in libido drinks. There are libido drinks made from many types of roots, for instance. And then there are drinks with Irish moss and various herbs, leaves, like Damiana or maybe horny goatweed. Irish moss is a seaweed that is collected off of rocks at the seashore. It doesn't always look this color. It can be different colors. It's either soaked in water or boiled. It's best if you boil it. It makes a very thick liquid. It's a moistening herb or a mucilage like marshmallow root. And we don't really have a lot of moistening herbs to choose from in proportion to just how many herbs there are. There are thousands and thousands of herbs. Of course, only a percentage of those are used routinely for medicinal purposes, but only a small percentage of the herbs that we have to work with are moistening herbs. Most herbs are drying. So identifying the herbs that are moistening is important because you got to have balance. You can't always just give somebody drying herbs over and over. So we have shatavari, which is an Ayurvedic herb. All right, that's a libido herb used mostly by women. It's a moistening herb. We've got Solomon seal root, American ginseng, slippery elm, burdock root. I already said marshmallow root, plantain, aloe vera, licorice, mullein leaf. These are mucilaginous or moistening herbs, so they're going to draw moisture into the tissues, which probably has something to do with Irish moss's use as a libido aid. Irish moss is sold in a lot of drinks in stores. They make all kinds of drinks out of it. Irish moss has a huge amount of polysaccharides. And when you boil this stuff, it grows into this gelatinous blob. And these polysaccharides are combined in the seaweed with minerals. Of course, it has iodine in it. And all of this is why Irish moss is such a nutritive food and a libido booster. It has a cleansing effect because it is high in iodine. And there are some trace elements that are similar to iodine, and these elements will take up space in the cell receptors that are meant for iodine. And so you need iodine to go into the cells and kick out the other trace elements that are just barely fit into the cell receptors and take up space where the iodine should be. You take true iodine, it kicks these out, and these trace elements that you don't want in your cell receptors usually collect in the reproductive organs. So iodine alone could be used as a libido booster in the right situation. I know of many cases where this has happened. But Irish moss is also a nutritionally dense food, and it provides minerals that otherwise a person may never get in their diet. None of us are getting proper minerals in our diet. We have mineral depleted food, and your life changes when you start getting a ton of minerals into your life, plant-based minerals. Dr. Edward Shook, who taught Dr. John R. Christopher, and we're going back to the late 40s, maybe early 50s, if memory serves, probably earlier than that, talked about Irish moss in his early books, which are still really great herb books by Dr. Edward Shook. But Irish moss, when prepared as a thick liquid mucilage, can be used as a nutritive, nourishing supplement that's needed for those whose digestive system is so screwed up they simply cannot keep anything down. Irish moss was used to save lives. And so you've got a person who they're losing weight, they're getting no nutrition. Irish moss soothes the lining of the digestive tract while also imparting dense nutrition. You give them this preparation of Irish moss, it's basically tasteless, so people who are nauseated easily by strong tastes and smells when they're sick, well, they're able to tolerate a preparation of this Irish moss. And it helped people tremendously. It would build them back up. So its uses go far beyond a simple libido booster. Like I say, any true libido booster will also have benefits, sometimes tremendous life-saving benefits for other situations, not just as a libido booster. All right, this next one may be surprising, but cloves. Cloves are a little known aphrodisiac herb. At one time, a pound of cloves were worth more than a pound of gold. Cloves are warming not only to the core of the body, but warming to the sex organs as well. And a small amount does the job. You don't need a lot. Cloves will increase the power of erections and also increase the intensity of orgasms. And if you can't get any cloves, then nutmeg is freely available in Jamaica, where it's used as a libido booster as well. It's put into recipes for libido enhancing drinks. It was being sold at the outdoor market I went to in my first Jamaica video, Charles Market. Nutmeg is, like I say, it's a valued ingredient in some sex tonic drinks in Jamaica. It is a central nervous system stimulant as well. Now, in Chinese traditional medicine, spices help move qi, or life force, through the body faster and more efficiently. So to see cloves or nutmeg being used for enhanced libido makes sense from this perspective. They are warming, they're stimulating, and they drive warming energy down to the sex organs. Cacao. Talk about a libido booster. Cacao is incredibly popular all over the world. Cacao can be found in Jamaica, Mexico, the Dominican Republic, Everybody loves cacao. Don't trust anybody who doesn't love chocolate. And it's found in many other areas of South America. Cacao contains lots of minerals, hundreds of chemical constituents, but perhaps its most famous chemical is called PEA, phenethylamine, a chemical in cacao. You eat the cacao or the dark chocolate, and it goes into the intestinal tract, gets absorbed by the body, and the phenethylamine crosses the blood-brain barrier. And that's when the magic happens. You start to get that one-of-a-kind feeling when you first fall in love with somebody. It alters brain chemistry, lifts the mood, lets you focus better, gives you energy. I'll be releasing a cacao video from my trip to the Dominican. I'll get more in depth about cacao then. But cacao's a no-brainer when it comes to libido. It's been called a super herb, which is generally an overused term, but for cacao, it certainly fits. Now, you can get cacao in powder form. You can get it in small pieces called nibs, but the whole bean is where it's at. These are criollo cacao beans that I managed to get from Peru. If you can get the whole bean, do it, because that's the best form of the cacao in my experience. And last but not least, here is our old friend Graviola, as it's known in America. In Jamaica, they call it soursop. In Mexico and the Dominican Republic, they call it Guanabana. And I don't know what it is about the word Guanabana, but people love to say it. They will keep saying it as long as you say it. They'll repeat it. I don't know what it is about the word Guanabana, but they just love to say it. It's also known as custard apple because of the fruit's sweet taste, and it does taste great. I had a guy at a huge fruit and vegetable market in Mexico offer me some Guanabana, and he wasn't going to take no for an answer. He chased me until I finally caved in and ate some, and it was delicious. But in Jamaica and Mexico, in the Dominican Republic, Guanabana is regarded as, in their words, a sex power food. Now, it's used more for various other health issues, ranging from mild to very serious, but at the same time, it's also a valued libido booster for many men and women. Guanabana grows alongside the roads in many parts of Jamaica, Mexico, the Dominican Republic. You can just drive down the road, and they just grow at the side of the road. You can just reach right out and grab the fruits, and it's actually a very popular food. You'll see Guanabana for sale all the time at the side of the road in towns and small villages. These are pictures from the Dominican Republic. These guys are getting ready to go to work. They have 3 Guanabana sitting on the dash of their work truck ready to be eaten, and I thought, I'm going to take a picture of that because I know why it's there. Guanabana cools you off. Fruits will cool you down. These guys are going to be out working all day. They're going to be have an elevated body temperature, and they're going to want to cool off by eating this custard apple, the Guanabana. And the same thing will happen in any climate. If you, like in Ohio right now, it's starting to get cold. So if you were to have, let's say you could get your hands on a couple Guanabana, which is not likely. Let's say you ate a couple pomegranates and then you go right to bed. You're going to freeze. You're going to freeze all night long because the fruits are going to be in your system and they're going to cool you off. They're going to drop your body temperature. So don't eat a lot of fruits before you go to bed, because if you're not used to it, you're going to freeze all night long. So I think it's time to close this chapter on the libido herbs of the Caribbean. I've covered a few, but there are lots more, and everyone in the islands has their own personal favorite. Turmeric is grown like crazy in Jamaica. It's a libido booster. Ginger root is a huge crop in Jamaica. It's a libido booster. There's a crazy sex potion popular in the Dominican Republic called Mamajuana. That's practically the national beverage. You can't go anywhere without seeing it for sale or seeing it behind the counter of shops where people drink it on the sly. There is no official way to make it. There's no official ingredient list, but everyone claims they have the true Mamajuana. I'll talk more about that in my Dominican video. More videos to follow when and if I get the time. Make sure you're taking plant-based colloidal mineral supplements daily. Take your vitamin D3. Stay away from people who are dream killers and downers at all costs. Guard your free time and your heart jealously. We are only here for so long, so make it count. Give second chances sparingly. Third chances only for that extremely rare person. Be safe, and thank you for listening. Guanabana.
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 Guanabana. Pura guanabana.
Guanabana.
Crema.
Guanabana.
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 Buena guanábana.
Guanabana.
Buena para el cáncer, buena para la salud.